Okay, maybe I think I'm streaming now. Very red lips today. Okay, looks like it's coming around. I was having some trouble with it there for a second. My streaming software crashed 2 times in a row. I was like, uh-oh, could be in trouble today, but then it decided to kick in just now. Just looks like I have lipstick on, which I can live with that. Hey, Shadow, Be Wise, Rich Reviews. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining in on this wonderful day. Even more fun, though, we've got a special guest down here. She had more to say than I was expecting. I thought that she was just going to lay there, but then she decided to actually start talking to everybody, so that's pretty cool. So, yeah, if you guys want to start throwing questions or topics you want to talk about or whatever into the little chat section, we can go ahead and get started. But as just kind of a bit of a heads up on my thoughts, probably going to try and revamp how I'm doing some of these live streams. And instead of just doing the one on Sundays, I'll probably try and have like 3 throughout the week. I've got several people in Europe, and so this is kind of a very different time of day in Europe. And so I'm going to try and have maybe 2 or 3 Patreon things. I got a lot of ideas that I'm working through now that my schedule has freed up a good bit more. So just so you guys know that's where I'm thinking I'm heading. Also, as well as on some of the Google Hangouts, one of the things I'm thinking about doing is look at one of these softwares where you can schedule things, and some of the higher peer patron people, you can sign up for a time slot or a group of people to sign up for a time slot to do some Google Hangouts where we can talk movies. So it's in several different, like, just so you know, some ideas that are kind of trickling around in my head. There you go. Rich Reviews says, taking this week off, but plan on doing some more films in the near future. Yeah, this is probably not a bad time if you're going to take a week off. This, especially getting ready to when a bunch of stuff start to come out in a few weeks. But right now is probably not a terrible week to take off. Rich Reviews, do you watch Empire? Any thoughts on what happened? I haven't watched Empire. I think my wife has watched a season or two. Sometimes she has like these secret shows that she's watched, basically because of when we've had babies, where she'll stay up late watching some show. And like sometimes there would be shows I'd be interested in watching. I don't even know she's watching, but so she's kind of watched through several different shows. I think Empire seasons 1 and 2 are one of them that I've seen 0 episodes, and she's seen, what would that be? 48 episodes. I think they're 24 or 40 something episodes, I think is what she's seen of it, but I could be totally wrong. So do I have any thoughts on what happened? I don't have secret information or anything like that, obviously. So if it's true that he was attacked, that's a horrible hate crime. If it's true that he faked it, that's a really horrible thing as well for someone to do that, and it's really bad for the country for someone to do that, to pour gasoline on the racial fires. The original story sounded pretty crazy, so it always sounded like this doesn't sound quite right. But yeah, it's just horrible that whether it happened or it's a hoax, both of those are horrible things. So I don't want to dig into anything too controversial, and I don't think I'm saying anything controversial on that, but at the moment it looks like for whatever reason this guy did something pretty sick to try and get a raise or something. I don't know, which in and of itself is kind of a weird thing to be true of society, that you could. Wait, you gonna laugh for us? Were you gonna laugh for us? Well, she's in a good mood. Glad she's not screaming. That could have been bad if she was screaming for us. Here, did you want one of these? Let's see what we got in here. The Shadow Reviews. I'm supposed to be writing an essay on Lord of the Flies, one of the most boring books I have ever read. Lord of the Flies is one of the most boring books you've ever read? Interesting. I wouldn't have expected Lord of the Flies to be on that level of boring, but I assure you, they will give you books that are a lot more boring. She's in such a good mood right now. It's interesting the way things are. Chat reviews. It turns it is around 10 p.m. in Spain. Yeah, so like right now it's supposed to be the middle of the afternoon here in Central Texas. Other places like people are going to bed. I know I have fans all over the world, but so just trying to figure out different ways to hit at all the different times when people might want to do stuff. Rich reveals no plans on watching the Oscars. We'll watch the season finale of True Detective. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I think I'll try and watch the Oscars, and then if they drop a Star Wars trailer or an Endgame trailer, I'm cutting loose, and I'm going to go into video shooting mode. I've actually got a video I think I'm going to shoot right after we do this called Why No One Cares About the Oscars, and hopefully it's not I don't like to get too divisive. I like to write enticing titles, but I don't like to print myself up as the moron, but just kind of walking through how kind of the Hollywood and general audiences and cinephiles are all kind of going in different directions, and the Oscars don't seem to know that, and so they keep trying to pander to general audiences like, here's James Franco, here's Seth MacFarlane, and that kind of alienates everybody, because if you pander to people, they don't appreciate it. The cinephiles don't appreciate it when you turn their ceremony into that, and then trying to add in all this stuff. So that's what the video will be about, but I'll probably watch some of the Oscars to some extent just to see some of it, but I'm just so not invested in the Oscars this year, or in general. It's not like it's not special to this year, but this year in particular, they've done things where it's like, you guys are losing it. Like you guys need a reboot. I actually almost named this video thinking about naming it "The Oscars Need a Reboot" because they do. They just need to go back to ground level. Decide what they're about, decide who they're trying to appeal to, and stick to that, and stop trying to just whatever it is that they're doing. Be wise, do you think there will be a mess up this year at the Oscars like La La Land to Best Picture? Do I think there will be a mess up? You have to define mess up, I think, for me to, when I think of mess up, I think, Steve Harvey reading the wrong name at the Miss America pageant. That's a mess up. And then I guess there was the La La Land one a couple years ago. But do I assume that this nationally broadcast show with enormous budget that they're hoping will generate tens of millions of dollars, do I think that they'll have a mess up? I never assume they'll have a mess up. That's why it's interesting. That's why we remember the La La Land one. That's why we remember the goof from Steve Harvey at the Miss America pageant, because it's really bad. Like when you botch something while millions of people are watching, that's bad. Really, really, really bad. Especially when millions of people are going to be watching it and they're like, whoops. And then John Travolta saying the wickedly talented Azelda Azim instead of Adina Menzel, like stuff like that. That's just. How do you make those types of mistakes on that level of platform? I don't know, but then again, I've done some bonehead stuff on my channel too. So, of course, then again, I don't have millions and tens of millions of people. I'm not this prestigious show. I'm just a guy shooting with a webcam, babysitting my daughter while we're doing all this. So, but I wouldn't assume that there would be something like that. What do you know says, are you excited for Queen at the Oscars? I guess it's nice that the remaining members of Queen are still going strong 45 years later. That's always cool when they can stay together, especially with so many bands, with so much drama. So it's cool that they're still together and that they've found a way to kind of cycle through different singers at different phases. Right? I think it's Adam Lambert right now. And I think that's pretty cool. It's not quite the same thing, but it's a nice gesture. So in that sense, yes, but it's not like next level, like, man, I'm excited about it. There's really nothing about the Oscars this year. They've just put themselves into such a weird corner that I can't get too excited about anything. Are you excited about the Oscars? Rich Review says, I love this season of Star Trek Discovery, but the Orville this season is borderline unwatchable. I haven't watched either one yet. I fully plan on binge watching Discovery towards the end of the season. Maybe even try to get my sister to come over, binge watch through it, and do a review at the end, and do some analysis type things. I couldn't do week to week like I did with season one, but the Orville, I got really burned by the fan base. Discovery burned me pretty bad too, but it was more reasonable. It was I was okay with their burning me. I was saying controversial things and they were pushing back, so it was like kind force. But the Orville, they like made personal attacks against me for being a religious person, and I was like, I'm getting way too many comments. Like, I didn't say anything divisive. I explained all these ways where I respected their writing, and then I said where I thought the writing was weak. And then they went after me because I'm a religious person, and it really, really soured me on the show. And then, you know, hearing the second season is good also kind of makes me go, all right, I don't need to tune into that so much. But Discovery, I definitely plan on picking back up. But Orville, I really enjoyed a lot of the first season, but was just so burned by the fifth. It's the most I've been burned by the comment section, and I've got like 900 public videos. I've had a lot of people hate on me for a lot of different reasons, but the Orville's the one that made me go, I don't know that I'm interested in continuing with this anymore. Rich reviews, would the Oscars be better off on Netflix? No, I mean, I don't know that there'd be any benefit to putting them on Netflix. Putting on a broadcast network is the way to get the broadest audience to watch it. You know, stream it over the internet for free with, you know, of course, all the ads running and everything, but then put it on a mainstream network, and that's, you know, that's how the most people will be able to watch it. I can't think of any benefits to putting it on Netflix. Rich reviews, while I love Brie Larson, I have no interest in seeing Captain Marvel. Yeah, I'm getting that vibe from a lot of people that they're just not interested in Captain Marvel, and I don't really understand why. I get the people that kind of are very sensitive to SJW type things, and so Brie Larson has said some unwise words, and then the anti-SJW crowd have like been very sensitive to that, and so people that are in those categories, okay, I can get why they where they're coming from. I'm not in that camp. I'm not in that camp of being offended by those what she said, but I can see where they'd be coming from, I guess. But in general, I mean, seeing a MCU film set in the 90s, that's interesting to me. Seeing a young Nick Fury before he's the one-eye black leather trench coat guy, I'm interested in that. Young Phil Coulson, all of the stuff about that movie sounds interesting to me. I'm not like specifically a Captain Marvel fan as the character. I don't really know. I mean, the video on my channel kind of explaining who Captain Marvel is. That's where I brought my friend Andy in to explain it, because I don't really know. But it's an MCU film, so they've earned my trust. They've consistently put out solid blockbusters, and then set in the 90s, and then young Nick Fury. I'm on board. Like, I'm very interested in all of that, and I'm interested because the post-credit scene of Infinity War was Nick Fury sending her a text or paging her, and so there's almost certainly going to be some interesting tie-in. So I'm interested. I don't have any of the skepticism that some people seem to have about it. Connor says, I wish I could trust the Oscars. I feel we need at least something to trust as a rating for movies other than audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes or on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, and there's not really a reason to trust them. They're just as weird as you think. Like, you can Google search. In this video I'm going to do tonight, I'll talk about this a little bit, but you can Google search Hollywood Reporter, honest Oscar voter, something like that. Hollywood Reporter, honest, whatever I typed in the first time, just kind of as a random search, the article came up. And it's like a segment they do every year where they have one or two different anonymous Oscar voters kind of share their take on the movies and just giving their honest opinions. And it doesn't put the Oscars in a great light. You kind of read through it and they're like, oh, I haven't seen this and I haven't seen this yet. One of them, the one that's getting a little bit more press, he openly states, I voted for Black Klansman because I feel like Spike Lee was cheated back with Do the Right Thing. They did not do the right thing. And so he's been owed an Oscar for 30 years. And so that's why I voted for him. And then he goes, I also voted for it because the movie demonstrated how nothing's really changed in 50 years. And so it's like, okay, so you voted for it because you disagreed with a different decision about a different movie and because of the political stance of it, but you didn't say anything about the quality of the movie itself. Well, you're getting to be a bit much. I'm going to put my box right here. This is a little isolation box, so it might reduce a little bit of a her speaking to us. But like when you hear that, when they openly state, I have not seen a bunch of the movies. I haven't seen a bunch of the movies, and like I'm voting based off of not it being the best picture, him being the best director. And he says like, oh, The Favorite, this has more creative and more ingenuitive. It's like and then he says like, I try to vote for important things. Okay, so you vote for things that you agree with, and based off of their history and their track record. It's just watch it as like reading it. It's tough, especially in light of how frustrating the Oscars look to be this year. All of the fumbles over the last 6 months. Not a good read. Ryan Green, what do you think of the new Rocketman trailer? I haven't seen it actually. A lot of times with trailers, if I don't react to them, I don't watch them online a lot of the time because I want to see them in the theater. I'd prefer to watch it on the big screen, the proper experience with an audience. And so I wasn't going to react to that one because I was too busy at the time. And so I haven't seen it yet. And I think I've only seen the first trailer for it maybe one time. I might not have seen that one at all either for the exact same reason. It hasn't played in a theater since it's come out. So unfortunately, I don't have a take on it as of this moment. Rich Reviews, would you ever create a Siskel and Ebert type show? If you mean me sitting down with someone else and debating kind of that week's movies and giving two different opinions, I'd be all for that if I had someone that I could do that in person. I wouldn't want to do like a split screen, this editing, the nightmare of it. But if I had like a contemporary person, I'd be game for it. I don't really like the idea of people only getting one opinion or just taking my word for it or just trusting Rotten Tomatoes. I think if someone sees the aggregate Rotten Tomatoes score, here's kind of my take, here's a different take from someone else. Between all of that, you can get a good idea as to whether it'll be good, the right thing for you. So, I mean, I'd be interested in something like that. That's not necessarily I'm immediately looking to do since I don't have a person in mind to help me out with that sort of thing. But I'd be more inclined to do a movie news show before I would do a movie review show with someone else. But even those aren't like, I'm not looking to add a new show in the near future. Right now, I'm kind of trying to focus in on making my channel kind of the best version of what it's been for the last 6 months. And the best pieces of the last 6 months, doing them better, doing more of them, and leaning into my strengths as kind of some of these big movies are about to come out and just try and knock it out of the park as I'm kind of making some big transitions. Cutter says, do you feel becoming a father has changed the way you view certain movies or changed your taste? Absolutely it has. It 100% has. You can see this even yesterday in my ranking of the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I've experienced the How to Train Your Dragon movies in the context of having children, which is to say, I know that they love the TV show. They binge watch the TV show, love the first movie, love the third movie, and they're like traumatized by the second movie. And so that's to say they love this franchise, this world, these characters. They love everything about it. But one of the movies has content in it that goes too far for them. Well, as a parent, I can't stop having that experience of watching it with my kids as they're like, the latter half of the movie. Like they can't watch it. And so that's the one that immediately comes to mind, not only because we watched these movies over the last few weeks and I made a video about it, but a lot of things like that I view especially family movies through the lens of family, which I didn't do that before. I just would watch them for myself and okay, these ones work for me. That's all I think about. Well, if you're watching a movie and then you have to, your kid has nightmares that night, you interpret things differently. And so we watched How to Train Your Dragon 2 a week and a half ago or something like that. And my son like wigged out after we watched it because of what happens kind of in the second half of the film. And that happened before when he watched it. Of course that affects me a good bit. And there's other movies that you just, if you watch Finding Nemo as a kid, you resonate with Nemo. If you watch it as a dad, you resonate with Marlin, and it's a totally different movie. And you realize, oh, this isn't it really is a movie about finding Nemo. Nemo's a side character, even though he's the title character. It's about a dad. And the dad's the one with the character arc that has to learn to let go and all these different things. And you just watch them very differently. You resonate with different things. Movies I've watched my whole life, I watch differently now that I'm a parent. The Shadow Review says, Part 1, I just posted my own review of Man of Steel. I like it, but it's nowhere close to the level of some of the other superhero movies like Nolan's Batman movies, the Avengers movies, or the last 2 Captain America movies. Of the movies you just listed, I'd probably say Man of Steel is better than Age of Ultron and probably even Dark Knight Rises. Probably say that's not a definite thing. Off the top of my head, though, the Age of Ultron, of all those movies you listed, I would have that one at the bottom of that bunch. And then Man of Steel would be towards the bottom, and then a bunch of the ones you mentioned would be way up towards the top. But yeah, I think Man of Steel has a lot of things that work for it, and it makes some silly mistakes. I think it's a movie that could be significantly better with just some, not a terribly large, not a tweaks, not massive tweaks, but they could make a big, gigantic difference to it. But I actually might review that one myself. I might do a Journey to Shazam series, which I should probably decide that because I would start it in 3 days or something like that if I'm going to do it. So probably need to make a decision on that one. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie. There's a lot of things I really like about it. BY says, here's a dare. Make a video of the worst episodes of The Office. I don't really like to do worst of videos. That's just not, I don't think that's my strong suit because I don't like to trash things. I don't like the position it puts me in. I'd much rather be like arguing for why I love something than trying to make an argument to someone else why they shouldn't like it. That's why I don't like the fact, a lot of people kind of define me as the guy that, not define me, but it's like a key thing is that I'm the guy that hates Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I don't hate Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I had a lot of issues with it. I was disappointed by it. But like, I don't like being in a position where talking about movies, I'm talking bad about it. And that's it would apply to TV shows as well. But, you know, worst episodes of The Office, I don't have a list. Like, I mean, I could say the one that makes me the angriest is the one where, you know, Jim and Pam are fighting and then she starts flirting with the camera guy and stuff like that. Like, that one's probably the worst. Like, I can make an argument for that, but then from there, I don't like the seasons I don't like that have all the episodes I would call the worst. I don't rewatch them unless I'm going to do a video about all the seasons. So it would be very difficult for me to do it. And it would really just be kind of unpleasant. Rich Reviews, would you be interested in seeing a live action Black Cauldron movie? Well, if I recall correctly, the Black Cauldron is based off of a series of books. And so it wouldn't even, let me look at it, make sure I don't even think the Black Cauldron was the first book, in the series. I believe I read them. Movie, Black Cauldron movie. There it is. Being that it's a fantasy type adventure, I think it lends itself more to live action than the Lion King live action or, you know, some of these other ones where it's just a pretty tough thing. Yeah, the Black Cauldron is actually book 3 in a series by Lloyd Alexander. I read them, 25 years ago, so I was trying to pull up old memories, but because of that, I think it's very ripe for adaptation to be live action. But I would probably say don't adapt the lukewarm recepted animated film. Just go back to the books and let's bring the books back. Rich Review says, please explain the appeal of This Is Us. I mean, it's kind of a classic family drama that's touching on nostalgia. It's touching on very real, heart, human emotions. And so if that's something that you're interested in, is kind of touching on family dynamics and history growing up, the ways that things affect us, if you're interested in that, then it does all of that very well, and it just hits a lot of notes really nicely. You know, it has, the characters in it are very... Several of them are very likable, and especially the dad, the patriarch, is just like a character that's very well rounded, in that he's this amazing dad while being a very broken person at the same time, and it's just a good study of brokenness. A lot of the characters, well, I guess Randall's the same way too. He's just like a really great guy that has some serious issues at the same time, and so it's just fascinating as this kind of character study of humans. Rich Reviews, would you free solo climb? No, I'm afraid of edges. Like, I'm not really afraid of heights, but like edges specifically. If you leave something like this, if I saw a phone like that, that's not a good you can't see that. Let's see where. If something was dangling like, well, that's a bad example. It's gonna fall. All the time, my wife rests plates on the arm of our couch. And so it's there and it's stable. And I just see it and it makes me nervous. And I have to walk over and take it off. Just edges. Like, and if we're somewhere where there's a nice view and you can look over the edge and there's a rail and everything. So you're not in danger You're not in danger and I'm wearing glasses. Like, I'll walk up and I'll hold my glasses because I'm just nervous they're going to fall because I'm afraid of edges. And there's like a viral video. Are you laughing at me? You're laughing at me, aren't you? There's a viral video from a year or two ago of a guy at a cliff, and he wants to look, and he's laying flat down on the ground, looking over the edge and like freaking out. He's like, "Oh, it's an amazing view!" Ah! And just flat on the ground. So like when we saw that, my wife kind of was like, "That's you. That's what you do." So the idea of like free solo climbing, that's not me at all. Not at all. But I've done like power poles and faith leaps, all sorts of like rock climbing things with harnesses. But I did it because it was my job and being youth pastor, taking the kids out there. So I had to be brave and people knew I was afraid and everything. That was kind of the appeal of some of it. All right, I'm going too slow. Connor says, do you bother buying Blu-rays that are already on a streaming service? Oh yeah, all the time. It's not so much for me about can I just watch it or not? Some of it really is about the collection. So like last year, I got the full Marvel collection right here, the full MCU. Yeah. Let's look at her one more time. She's in a good mood once again. Hey, look, you're on camera. You're on camera. You're on camera. I got the full collection, and I didn't even care if I on streaming or not. I just wanted them. That's all that mattered to me is I want these. I want to have the full collection. Likewise, and also deal shop. Most movies I don't buy at $25. Like I did that with the Marvel movies because that's so important to my channel and my collection, everything like that. But if I can find a movie that I like for like $8, oh, your mommy's here. Look over there. Look, no, look, baby, turn around. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Passing off the. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. You're not even looking at the camera. Say bye-bye.
Thank you.
If I find the movie that I want for $6 or whatever, I'm going to get it. I don't care if it's on streaming. I just want it in my collection. I don't trust that it's going to be on Netflix or whatever forever. And I just always like to have my copy of it. I don't trust my internet to work. So there's just a bunch of things like that affect the way I would do things like that. I got to get through these. I keep talking way too long. Connor says that Pause poster is great. Yeah, so I first heard about Pause in an episode of Barbie because my kids watch Barbie and they had a Pause poster in the background. And so then I just frequently just kind of searched through Amazon for 13:9 posters because that's the size of these is 13:19 is the way you search for them. And Pause showed up and I was like, I have to have that. So I did. The Shadow says, I resonate with the high turtle because I have no idea what is ever going on. Rich Review says, at the moment, my mind is not clicking with what you're referring to. Rich Reviews, how much would I have to pay you to post a positive review of Superman 4? Well, I've already said it's one of the worst superhero movies of all time. So if I were to post it, people would probably know I wasn't being serious. But I could pretty easily post a video saying positive things about it. Going and giving it a positive review saying, this is a great movie, go check it out, people would know I wasn't being serious. But it would be very easy for me to make a video talking about a certain sense of nostalgia, what Christopher Reeves was able to do with the character. And there's elements that aren't far off. There's some well-intentionality to it, but yeah, it's not a great film. Rich Review says, officially surpassed 25,000 views and nearly 60 views away from Bosch Season 3 hitting 2,000 views. Awesome. It's always nice when you hit those benchmarks and, you know, just seeing the progress. I actually love analytics. I keep way too much track of numbers and things like that and pay attention to it because it's just interesting to me. And especially to stop and think about what some of these numbers mean. And, you know, there aren't 25,000 people in the city I live in. Like, that's crazy to think about what some of these numbers mean. Rich Review says, how in the world do you not know who the great documentarian Ken Burns is? I don't know. There's tons of things I know and there's tons of things I don't know. You just find yourself not in certain circles. And then the inherent nature of ignorance is that you don't know what you don't know. So of course, I have no answer to your question. Connor says, have you ever left in the middle of a movie or asked if you could have your money back if it was bad? 2 times. 2 times I've walked out in the middle of it. Year 2000, I went on a date with a girl from church to go see American Psycho. You can imagine how that went. She picked the movie. She was the one who was like, hey, let's go see American Psycho. I love horror movies. And so we go to see it. And around the time the orgy scene kicks out, she's like, let's go. It's like, okay, we can leave. And so the first time I ever walked out of a movie was American Psycho. Walked out during the orgy scene with the girl from church that I was on a date with. Second one was, went with my wife. I think we were married. We think we were married at the time. Maybe we were about to get married. So in the scheme of us knowing each other, it was very early on. We went to go see Crank, expecting the Transporter. Crank is not the Transporter. Crank is Grand Theft Auto on Red Bull. And so about 30 minutes into it, she's like, let's go. She was not digging any of it at all. So those are the 2 times I walked out of a movie. And I've since gone back and rewatched both. American Psycho is a really cool movie. Really interesting film. Not a good movie to go on a date with the girl from church from. And same with, I guess that's my wife too. I met her at a church, so taking her to see Crank, also not the best date movie. Rich Reviews. Would you rank the 3 Aladdin movies, considering I like Return of the Jafar but dislike King of Thieves? Yeah. I wouldn't do it now. I would do it after the new one comes out. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm literally adding that onto my list. Because that is a good idea that I did not previously write down. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. I've got this file called 2019 Video Brainstorm, where if I've mentioned before my big gigantic lists of brainstorms, this is that file right there. There's a sneak peek of May. Aladdin ranked. Good idea. I like it. Okay. Be Wise, do you watch Gotham? I have watched the first... Are we in season 5 or 6? Whatever season we're on, I've watched through halfway through last season. So I'll get all that to say, I guess that means I'm a season behind on the show. It never... It was always interesting enough for me to keep... Woo. It always kept my interest just enough for me to keep watching it, but never enough that I was like invested in it. So if I stopped watching it, I wouldn't think to go back to continue watching it. So whenever there was a fall break or summer break or whatever, I'd have to binge watch. Like, oh yeah, Gotham, there's more of it. I should catch up on that. But it's just kind of a show that always seemed to be kind of a weird concept that never quite found its tone. Because it's kind of campy in the way it does certain things, but it's also horrifically gross and violent in other ways. So it never fully has clicked for me. The Shadow reviews. Part 1. My brother found Man of Steel extremely boring and doesn't want to rewatch it. How old is your brother? Would be question number 1. I thought it had pretty bad pacing and the plot had to be a little weak. I think that no DC movie will ever surpass the quality of Nolan's Batman trilogy. Yeah, I think there's limitations to what they did with the Nolan's films, that he did a pocket universe with a character without superpowers that gives you certain advantages in making a drama that they're difficult to do with a character as powerful as Superman. And so, but yeah, the pacing is one of the issues with Man of Steel. It's very backloaded, like extreme noise, loud, obnoxious. Once you hit about an hour, and the first hour and 20 minutes are kind of slow, and then the second hour is just nonstop action stuff happening, which is probably not the best way to pace things out. Connor says, are you excited for Star Wars movies, or what other franchises do you think should end? Am I excited? Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like, I've mentioned this before, but, you know, I'm a big enough Star Wars fan that almost every single video I've shot on my channel has been shot on top of this on top of this stack of Star Wars behind-the-scenes books that are these really expensive coffee table books that are awesome. So it's a world that just has more stories to tell. And as I've said it many times before, but I'm annoyed that they keep going back to that post-Revenge of the Sith, pre-A New Hope. They just keep telling stories inside of there. They've done 2 different spin-offs inside of there. They did a Rebels inside of there. And, there's talk of Obi-Wan inside of there. There's talk of what was one of the Rogue One characters, giving him a TV show set in there. And so that annoys me because the universe is this big and they keep going back to these playing in the same little playground, and that bugs me. I wish they would expand it. But that's really what I think the problem is that they just kind of, they're playing it too safe, which is what Disney's kind of been doing with all these live action remakes, buying the Marvel, buying Star Wars. They're playing the safe game. They're trying to get surefire hits. And because of that, I don't think we're getting great movies. Even like Last Jedi was divisive, but it wasn't like, it's not like they told this wildly different story. There's big, gigantic elements inside of Last Jedi that are pulled straight from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I mean, it's just very obvious where it's pulling from those movies. And so it's just very frustrating to see them not take some of those risks. But I'd love to see more. Franchises I want to see die. I don't know. I don't have one that comes to mind. I don't have one that just kind of like, oh, this. If you guys want to mention some that maybe should die, tell me down below and maybe you can jog my memory of something. But like, something that comes to mind, I'm not interested in seeing a sequel to Alien Covenant. That doesn't interest me. I'd much rather them do that Blumkamp retcon sequel, ignoring everything after Alien 3. That is interesting to me, but it's not that I don't want any more Alien movies. It's that I don't want more Prometheus movies. So that's the only thing that kind of comes to mind. Connor says, what do you use to edit your videos? I use Adobe Premiere. I use the Premiere Adobe Suite for everything. So Photoshop for thumbnails and some special effects stuff in After Effects. I don't do a ton of After Effects, but a little bit. Rich Review says, I actually stayed away from analytics the last time I looked at it. I got depressed. It's true. The analytics are very depressing the first time you look at them. But if you want to get better, if you want to like figure out what's working and what's not working, you have to find the pain spots. And you have to find like, wow, I put out this video and everyone clicks away within 30 seconds. What did I do? Digging deep into the painful, everything that comes from doing what you learn from looking at painful analytics. And so I did a 25-page report on audience retention last summer, like literally 25 pages long, looking at 20 different videos, chart, observations, applications from all of it, and just realizing, oh, wow, like I thought this video was this huge hit, but honestly, it wasn't really, because everyone that watched it got turned away from my channel because of how I did things. And so I just learned from a lot of that stuff. And that's where if you look at in August of last year, I started changing my editing, or maybe September, when the Meg came out. I think the Meg was my first video with my current editing style right around then. And it's because I did this report and learned so much about how people were watching my videos and clicking away. And hopefully I improved things. Rich, oh, falling behind again. Rich Reviews, what on PBS do you prefer, American Experience or Frontline? I don't watch either one. I don't watch any broadcast television at all. You can get a pretty good idea of what I watch because it's what I talk about on my channel plus This Is Us plus a couple reality shows. That's all I watch. I don't have a bunch of secret other things that I watch because I don't have time. Especially because ranking videos are my key thing. I have to watch 3 movies to do a 5-minute video because my rankings are all at least 3 movies. But some of these are 10 movies. I have to watch 10 movies to do one 15-minute video, in which it's just very time-consuming to do that, so I don't have a bunch of extra TV shows I watch. Be wise, rank the live-action Disney remakes after The Lion King. It'll happen some point in time this year. I'm trying to decide when I want to do it, and if I want to do... I don't mind updating my rankings after new releases. I'm trying to realize at what point in time am I just pushing it too far? When are they too close together? So I might do a first one after Dumbo and then do one after Lion King because it'll add 2 into the mix. I'm not really sure, but I've got a bunch of different ideas for a bunch of these things. Rich Reviews, can I get a royalty check for getting you turned onto They Shall Not Grow Old? That's not exactly how it played out. You were the one that told me about it for the first time. You were the one that was like, oh, wow, that sounds pretty cool. But then I just got invited to a press screening. So the way I ended up seeing it was because I was invited to the press screening. So it's like 50-50. You're the one that first told me about it, but the reason I specifically saw it on an occasion was because of they invited me to watch it for free. The Shadow Reviews. Are you going to rank the Men in Black movies in June after the new one comes out? Yes, that's on the calendar. Definitely going to happen. Shadow Reviews. My brother is 17. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not surprising to me that someone that's a 17-year-old would watch Man of Steel and be like, this is boring. I don't get it. There's a bunch of things about it that it's not all just entertainment in your face. Fun. Connor says, did you see, oh, nose. Did you see Hereditary? Yes, I saw Hereditary. I don't know if that's true or not. I might have a review on here of it on Patreon. It might be one of my exclusive reviews that I didn't do on my main channel, but I might have reviewed it on here. I might not have, though. But I talked about it in a couple of different videos last year, but I didn't have a proper review for it. I thought it was okay. I didn't really understand the people going gaga over it. Not at all. There's some shocking moments. There's a lot of creepy moments. It's well made. It's good. I thought it was like 20 minutes too long. And the final answers in the end of it, I thought were not particularly great. Connor says, are you excited for Us? Yeah, absolutely. I've watched my fair share of Key and Peele over the years. And then Get Out was, of course, a very interesting, almost like modern Twilight Zone with current racial issues being addressed inside of it. So this is a very smart little film, well crafted, well put together and everything. So of course, interested in to see the follow-up one. Should be good. V-Taylor says, my internet is shot. I just got the notification for the stream now. Oh, well. Hi, all. Thank you so much for joining in, even if for the last 10-15 minutes of all of this. At the very beginning of all this, what I said was, I'm probably going to start trying to space these out and do kind of like maybe 2 different 30-minute ones or 3 different 30-minute live streams at different times of the day, because I'm aware that some of you are on the other side of the planet, in which case it's a very different time of day there. So trying to think through a couple of those different things to expand. So I said that at the beginning, so I thought I'd mention it here now that more people are here. Rich Review says, I wish that Fast and the Furious would just go away. They're still kicking. They're still making money. They're still fun for me. The reason I have trouble saying I want a franchise to go away is because just because I don't watch it doesn't mean someone else isn't watching it. So like I've never watched any of these Madea movies. I was at the theater. They played a trailer for the new one. I was like, there's another one of these coming out. How many of these are there? But like, it's not like I want it to go away. It doesn't affect me at all that they exist. So I don't care if they want to make these movies and if they're still making certain people happy and making money for other people. Cool. Doesn't mean I'm going to go see it, but I might go see it. But so I just don't really care. It's stuff like 50 Shades is where I start being like, why is this still getting made? Haven't we? Like, I get why this was greenlit, but then we went through #MeToo and we kind of learned, hey, powerful men using their power to seduce young women to do what they want. Maybe not the best subject matter to romanticize in the post #MeToo era. So those are the ones that normally come to mind for me. Connor says, do you track the movies you watch? I've become kind of obsessed with it. I have since beginning of last year. Every movie I watch, I kind of track, and that's how I'm doing. I need to shoot my next one, but like doing videos where I rank all the movies that I'm watching, it's because I've got a running list of every movie that I watch right now. And then I have a running ranking of all the new releases that I see within inside of the year. So I do now keep pretty good track records because of the Patreon page and because of, my YouTube channel in general. As a other thing out there, I think I'm debating switching the language that I refer to the Patreon page to Inner Circle. I think I really like that language because what I want this to be is a place where you guys are the people that I talk to the most. Like, Rich, V, Connor, you're the people that I'm talking, Shadow, Be Wise. Like, you're literally, of the people that watch my channel, the ones that I interact with the most. You're the Inner Circle. You're the people I talk I literally actually talk movies with you. Whereas there's 88,000 other people that don't have this interaction. You're the Inner Circle. So I think I'm going to switch that language. That's the appeal. What I want this to be is that you guys are going to interact with me. But that's a random thought. My mind might be getting a little bit shot as I'm jumping around. I don't even know why I brought this up at this particular moment. V says, hi, Sean. Do you think Article 13 in the UK will hurt your channel for the audience? I'm not really sure how that will work. It's not good, though. It's not something I'm excited about. But I don't think there's anything positive that will come of it for me. And certainly there will probably be some negative trickle down for some of my fans. I'm not an expert on any of that. The YouTube expert people haven't specifically done anything addressing we should expect that to look like, not the ones that I'm following. So hopefully some of them will do that in the near future, because I'm getting, especially since I announced I'm going full time, several people from Europe have been like, what do you think Article 13 is going to do to you? Like, I'm not really sure. I don't know how Article 13 is going to hit me. Connor says, is there any movie you have an unpopular opinion in liking or not liking? I mean, the one that I've gotten the most hate on my channel is not liking Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 enough. That's the one that people are like, what? How dare you hate that movie? I don't hate it. Disappointed me, and I can tell you why, but I don't really want to argue with you. I'm not trying to convince you not to like it. I'm not a big Stanley Kubrick fan, like The Shining, Clockwork Orange, and I'm not trashing them. It's not that. They're just movies that I watch them and I go, I can appreciate what he's doing here. I get why other people would watch this and it's such a unique, intricate view of filmmaking. It's just not for me. Or 2001. They're just not movies they're not the way I watch movies. So those are some ones that come to mind. Ones where I like something a lot of people don't like. I'm probably more the person that I squish a lot into the middle. If you even look at my ratings, I give a whole lot of B's out. So there's a ton of movies that other people want to crap on. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Daredevil, the movie, it's fine. I don't have any hatred for it. There's some issues, but I don't get when people just want to trash it and things like that. But that's probably more what I do, is I squish a lot into the middle and can enjoy a lot. V says, I changed my username in case there's confusion. I'm not quite sure why I immediately knew who it was, but I think where I saw it on one of the other places where you've tweeted or something like that, I was just able to put it all together pretty quickly. Rich Reviews, did you ever watch Celebrity Deathmatch? I watched some. I don't have any stories or memories or anything like that, but it's one of those things that way back, 15 years ago when Celebrity Deathmatch was huge, that I was definitely intrigued by to some extent. But also it was one of those things that was intriguing, like, oh yeah, that was fun. but not something I've remembered. Like you mentioned a celebrity deathmatch. Oh yeah, that was a thing. It's one of those moments for me. Rich reviews. Have you ever watched any Tyler Perry movies? No. I mean, I've seen like Gone Girl. I've seen movies that Tyler Perry's in, but I don't think I've seen a Tyler Perry movie. And there's no particular reason or story behind that. There's not like I've intentionally avoided them. It just hasn't been something that I haven't watched any of the trailers and gone, that's a thing that appeals to me specifically. They have specifically not appealed to me, so I haven't watched them. Richard Price. Hey, Sean. Hey, Richard. Thanks for joining in. Rich Review says, will you watch the new Twilight Zone coming out in April? Absolutely. I'm totally in on that. 2 reasons. Well, let's go 3 reasons. Reason number 1, Jordan Peele. He's on a good streak, so I'm fascinated. Reason number 2, the trailer that they just debuted a couple days ago looked pretty good. Creepy, great cast. So they're going for it. Reason number 3, the by far the most important reason on this list. My wife is a Twilight Zone nut. She doesn't really do scary movies, but it's not like she likes some creepy. So she loves the Twilight Zone. She has certain, like some of our friends and certain some of our former students that are in college now, when they come back from college, they come over to our house and they watch their favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone, things like that. Actually, one of their high school graduation parties, what they did is they watched the Twilight Zone with my wife. So we're huge. Twilight Zone is a big deal for her. So when I showed her that, I think it was yesterday, I showed her the trailer. She's like, and then it said at the end, CBS All Access. She's like, oh no, man, it's only on CBS All Access. Like, well, we're gonna get it. Like I watch TV shows and movies for a living now. Like we can spend $8 for CBS All Access, especially if it's something you want to watch. And I got to watch Star Trek Discovery. So I'll go for 5 more minutes if you want to throw in kind of your final questions, and I'll try and run through some of these. The Shadow says, am I the only one that wants a Joker trailer as soon as possible? I'm probably not the only person. I'm not in a rush to get one because I'm not, I'm very curious about the project because it's such an odd project to me. But do I specifically want that? Am I in a rush to get one? I'm not in a rush to get one. I'm just curious about it. So, but I don't need it now. And it's not a movie that I think needs to be a big blockbuster that they need to promote it way out in advance. Seems like it's a smaller film that you can do tighter marketing for it. First reviews. Usually get off work and get home around between 5:30. But what time zone are you in? I think you're an hour ahead of me, if I'm not mistaken. Connor says, I think it's great that you communicate with your fans and it feels like there's a great community surrounding your videos. That's what I aim for. And I think it all goes back to my background, which is to say, as I've said it many times before, I've been in comment sections for 20 years. I had a Jackie Chan fan page back in like 1998 that I put up. I was on the IMDb bulletin boards 18 years ago. I was in the comment section on Collider 10 years ago. I was on all sorts of, my YouTube channel, the channel, the actual one, the email address for it is Kirk Never Died with the username Kirk Never Died. I have that username not because I was trying to start a movie review channel, but because I was going to start commenting on Movie Talk and Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman's videos and everything like this back in 2012. So back 7 years ago, I just wanted to comment on them. So I started this account. That's where it came from. So responding to people is just what I naturally do because I want to talk movies with people, want to have different opinions and kind of hear where they're coming from. So I think it's because my history is you. I know where you're coming from. I don't understand when I go to Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman video and haven't responded to any comments. I don't understand that. That's weird to me. I don't know how, I don't resonate with the idea of like not responding to anything. I just naturally like, hey, if you care enough to watch my video and comment, I want to respond to it. I want to interact with you. I want to, that just seems like a natural reaction, as well as I just normally talk about movies. So one of the appeals of the channel was like, hey, what if I could drive the conversation? And so then we're exchanging my ideas in the comment section. That was like a thing that I had that active thought years ago. And it's like, wouldn't it be cool if I could put some ideas out there and then talk with people in the comment section? That's where we are. So, it's just kind of who I am. Connor says, did you design your own merch? Kind of depends. So my merch is like this design right here. I designed this. I mean, it's not complicated, but it took me 10 minutes to do, but I designed that. I designed this one of me with the lightning. The ones that are like, I talk movies too much. and have pictures of me, things like that. I designed all of that. The logo that's this retro Star Wars that says Sean Chandler talks about movies, I designed that. The ones that are like parodies and different mixes of things that are like just shirts I watch in my videos, those are just other shirts on TeePublic that I just promote in my store. Shirts that either I want or I think that people that like my videos might want, I put in my merch store. My specific merch are I Talk Movies Too Much, pictures of me, my logo. And hopefully, now that I'm full-time, I plan on putting out 1 or 2 new designs every month. And in theory, the TeePublic store is designing a shirt for me. In theory, that's happening. I'm on a demo program or something so that they're trying to entice me to pay them to design things for me. So if it's great, then maybe I'll start doing that. But yeah. That's kind of the background on it. Rich Reviews, what was the mid-credit scene for Happy Death Day to you? I don't want to go into spoilers for a movie, but it's a setup for a third movie going in a different direction. And I'll just say Men in Blackish. Men in Blackish is the way that that's all I'll say. And it's a setup for another movie. And you can read between the lines on what that could mean. V says, I agree. Guardians 2 wasn't great. It's not bad. It's just, it didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. Exactly. And because it was my most anticipated movie of that year, more so than the Star Wars movie, I was anticipating Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And so it disappointed. It fell well below what I was hoping it would and could be. And some people just absolutely loved it. Thought it was better than the first one. And I have it low on my MCU ranking, but I, of course, obviously love the MCU in general. So being low on the MCU ranking for me doesn't mean it's a horrible movie. It just means it's out of a bunch of movies I really like, it's low on the list. Other people, they only like their top 10 and they dislike their bottom 10. That's not me. I'm not putting out tons of Marvel content because I'm pandering. I'm doing it because I really enjoy those movies. Like, that's stuff that I actually like. That's my type of blockbuster. And that's why I have all these kind of nerdy things. And that's why my brother-in-law buys me the Avengers and X-Men books for Christmas, because that's who I was before I had this channel. And so people, I think, misinterpret the fact that I have a number like 17 on my ranking. They're like, that's offensive. It's much better than that. It's like, is it? All right. Final few things on here. Connor says, how important is cinematography to you? In this scheme of things, it's probably a lot lower on the list for me. For the types of films that my special spot, blockbusters, franchises. That's kind of my sweet spot. And they're movies, by the nature of them, that's more about entertainment than the art of it. Cinematography, also by the nature of it, is more on the artistic side. So, because of who I am, because of the nature of cinematography, in nature of also what my channel is, it's lower down on the list for that reason. But that's specifically in terms of what I usually address. If you're talking about a movie that's much more telling a more powerful story, then it's a lot more important to me. And when a movie has great cinematography, it certainly enhances things. But for me, it's not something that cinematography for me, like I can watch a movie and be like, wow, that was gorgeous. I love the way that was shot. There's so many cool shots in that, so creative in the angles, the cameras they use. That was awesome. But unless they're just incompetently like framing things and like unless they're doing weird stuff like that, I don't notice bad cinematography. There's just like an enormous amount of like, that was good enough. And then there's good. And then there's, wow, that was awesome. That was fantastic. So for that reason, it's not terribly high on my list of, but going back to also Stanley Kubrick, like I said before, he's on the artistic side and I'm just not, that's not my strong suit in the way I process movies usually. Connor says, just for the record, you're why I got the Thanos vs. the Universe t-shirt. It's a good shirt. And if they're in my store, I get money off of that too. So anything, if you use my link and pull it out of the store, it's the same way, Walmart doesn't produce all their shirts. They get a percentage of them. If you buy this one right here, I get both a percentage of a sale plus I get the artist commission. So I get the sales commission and artist commission if I designed it. I just get the sales commission if it's something else. So Thanos one, I got a sales commission too. So I don't know if that... If you want to understand my relationship with TeePublic, there's a little bit of information on it. Richard says, there was one season of Twilight Zone in 2002 on UPN. Forrest Whitaker was the host. He looked like he showed up for 5 minutes and checked out and left. The Twilight Zone revivals over the past have not been terribly well regarded, other than, I guess, the movie. People had some respect for the movie. V says, I always preferred the Outer Limits to Twilight Zone. Yeah, I need to check out more Outer Limits. I need to dig deeper into that one. Just Twilight Zone's the one that, because my wife was like, Twilight Zone, we gotta watch Twilight Zone. That's where the last 13 years I've spent a lot more time in there than I have in the Outer Limits. All right, close out just these last couple comments on here. Connor says, I thought the change in tone in 2U was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, so for me, I didn't perceive of it as a change of tone so much as a change of plot. Because the first one still had that same sense of humor, same characters and everything, but the central plot line in the first one was there's a killer that kills her at the end of every day. And so then it's a slasher movie. And so then when you have a slasher story, that's very prominent and you like to think horror. The second one shifts it, that becomes the back burner plot line. It's still out there, but it's the back burner. But on the front burner is we're trying to figure out why this loop is happening. How do we undo this loop? And so there's this big shift in the plot. And so when it's suddenly about how do you stop a time loop, plus you've got this humor, then it suddenly feels like a sci-fi comedy. But when you've got someone being killed at the end of every day, it feels like a horror movie. So I think that it was much more the plot is what changed than the tone. There's a few things that I think are a little bit more. The death montage in the second one, the falling from the sky, looking at the camera. I think that's a little bit too much wink, wink at the camera, too much Deadpool, fourth wall breaking, but that would be my take on it. I dug it though. I probably, when all things play out, will watch the second one more. I think that's what'll probably happen because I like time travel, and so it worked for me. It's kind of messy and some stuff, but it worked for me. The Shadow Review says, I only dislike my bottom 2 MCU movies. That's pretty close to where I'm at. That's basically the same thing. I rewatched Thor 2 this week, and I think we got a new bottom of my list. That one, watch it. And this time I tried to give it a really good watch. Sometimes when I've rewatched these over the years, I'll have other things going on. This one was like, no, I need to watch this one properly because this could be at the bottom. And just rewatching it, I was like, there's too many problems here, so that's going to be my new guy at the bottom. All right, we are at over an hour. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and everything. This week, tomorrow's my first day full-time on YouTube. I mean, Friday was my last day at my job. Tomorrow's the first day I don't have to go to work. So I'm Patreon. This is a big priority for me, is to find the way to offer the most value to all of you wonderful people and have this be something that's, can give you something you need. That's where kind of that inner circle, this whole idea that you get to spend more time with me. I get to actually talk movies with you. That's what I want to try and aim. Figure out the ways that I can do that doesn't just drain me, doesn't take too much time, or I'm not spreading myself too thin, but that's really one of the things I want to aim for. So thank you so much for joining in. Got a couple things in here. Connor says, I agree with you on Guardians 2. Awesome. I thought the villain ruined it, but I can see why people liked it. Yeah, it's got a lot of good, it sprinkles a ton of humor in there. So if the humor lands for you and that's kind of a high priority, I can see why some people would love it. And then Kurt Russell, people love Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. So there's a lot to like in there. And he said, Connor says, congrats on full time. Thank you. Thank you. V says, bye, I'm going to watch the Smash Ultimate Frostbite final on Twitch. Actually, just right before I started on this, we were watching something on YouTube, and they said, hey, check us out on Twitch. And my wife goes, what's Twitch? And so she's in the process of trying to, especially because we have a son obsessed with video games, I'm pretty sure Twitch is soon going to become this big part of our life. And if there's some, my son is very much into Smash Bros. Ultimate right now. Just that and Pokemon are his things. So even as you say that, I was, oh, my son would love whatever you're describing. I don't know what it is, but my son would love it. Anyway, I'm still over. I got to go. I got to shoot this Oscar video, and then I'm going to be making videos all the I'm still talking. I have so many things I'm excited about right now that I'm full-time. And really, honestly, you guys are my biggest supporters, the people I interact with the much. You are the inner circle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next Sunday, maybe even sooner.